what you want, what you want.
Hi, and welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is week 4 Project Pate. Greg Allen along in 10 minutes to talk college football, and a mysterious guest in our third segment today. We are, of course, broadcasting high atop Jordan Hall in Studio 218, and joining me now to begin the show is our local flavor correspondent, Laura Ann Sills. Welcome to the set.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here today.
Now, before we even get started, there's an obvious change on the set this week. Have you picked up on it? And if so, what are your thoughts?
I love the new shirt. I was really afraid that you only had one shirt, so I went to buy you something new, but I couldn't find anything good enough for you, and this seems to be a fabulous, fabulous shirt.
Aside from Greg Allen's grammatical errors over the past few weeks, the number one complaint that we had here at the show was that I was dressing like a flood victim with just the same shirt over and over again.
I mean, I was getting complaints to my own personal email, so I understand.
I have more important things to worry about, as you know, running a show of this magnitude. So wardrobe was among the least of my issues, but we do listen to our audience, and I listen to you, so I'm happy to oblige.
What they want.
Exactly. That's why you're here.
Right.
That's why you're here. We have a bear problem in Georgia. Have you heard about this?
I've heard about it. It's just unreal to think about. Tell them about how many.
Clinch County, Georgia. I couldn't tell you where that is. I couldn't point it out on a map, but in the last month, 4 bears over 500 pounds killed.
That is a big old bear. And the thing is, it's just they start coming into people's yards. They don't stay, in the wooded areas.
This is the point where you pretend to act like you know what bears do, and you know anything about bears. Is that right?
I do know what bears do.
What do you know about bears?
I've actually done a story here in Harris County about a bear that was wandering from its den and came to Harris County, and someone ran over it, hit it with their car. I mean, we have a deer problem where people get into wrecks with deer all the time, but not often with a bear, but it was an intense situation.
Well, as you know, as is the case with every county in Georgia and the surrounding area, we have a lot of fans and viewers in Clinch County. So we thought that with the help of Dano behind the wheel up there, that we would send out maybe a PSA announcement to our friends in Clinch County. Roll it, Dano.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear is finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
Yeah, that's intense.
You have been warned, Clinch County. All right, let's move on to hazing. Hazing, an issue with a lot of high schools. Specifically, 10 high school football players now have been suspended at a South Carolina high school for hazing. My question to you first is, what do you know about this story? And then we're gonna get to maybe issues that you've had with hazing in the past.
Well, I do know that there were 13 players who were involved in this, but 10 are actually suspended from school and suspended from the football team. They can't play. There were 3 victims so far, and they say that they were pushed and shoved and slapped. So, your normal hazing, I guess, from stories or shows like Saved by the Bell, you think it's, getting your head in the toilet or getting pushed in a locker, but I think it's just sort of in the boys' locker room.
You said pushing, slapping, and what?
What did I say?
I think you said pushing, slapping. Those were about the harshest offenses that you named.
Oh, right.
And if that's the case, you know what we used to call that when I was in high school, which was not that long ago? A typical day. That's what we called it. This is part of what I like to refer to as the wussification of America.
Let's just say that Josh had, a hard time in high school. I was right there next to you, and
let's just say that kids are unbelievably soft today. Let's say that. Pushing and slapping?
I know, but it's just not fair when 10 boys are around you pushing and slapping you. That's not fair.
I don't know. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that. But what I wanted to ask you is, what kind of hazing issues do you deal with in the news industry?
Not too many hazing issues. There are some times when I go out on a story and the people don't want me on their property, so they have threatened me before, but I've never actually been hazed.
I wouldn't call that a hazing issue as much as I would call it like a redneck issue. Have you been chased with a rifle and whatnot?
No, not yet with a gun, but just some
Never
burly
interview
lady
Never
Running towards
interview.
me.
If you could picture the person that you were interviewing with a straw in their mouth and overalls, don't pursue that story. Send someone else.
No, but sometimes those people are just the nicest.
Sometimes they are. And sometimes people go to interview them and they never return.
You're right. That's why on those kind of stories, we always take a photographer.
That's a good deal. You're leaving us next week. You won't be here. What's going on?
Well, I am going on vacation, the first one since Memorial Day, and I'm not going to tell you where I'm going because, you know, these fans of the show are just, sometimes they get a little crazy, and so I don't want them following me to my destination, but I'm going to get a little break from this and from the news.
You know what someone walked up to me and said this week?
What did they say?
They said, that girl that's on your show all the time, they brought her on the news to host it this weekend. So I'm glad that you're using this show as a springboard to other ventures.
You're right. This has just pushed me over the top in my career.
We're here to help you.
Can I ask one quick question before we go?
Do we have time, Dano? I don't think. Okay, we do have time. Go ahead.
Yeah. If you have this mic, why do you have the lapel mic?
That is inconsequential to the overall quality of the show. This is aesthetics here. And secondly, I don't like this microphone, personally.
Because it messes up the pretty new shirt you have on.
Yes. Now, the only other option would be to do the show shirtless, which I won't lie, studies have shown that
I like that idea.
Well, it would increase our 18 to 36-year-old female viewership and probably our 18 to 36-year-old male demographic as well. But me and Daniel just thought that with the green screen, we didn't know how I would blend, so we went shirt.
Right. Well, I think some people appreciate the shirt, but maybe one day we'll do a quick little, how does Josh work out, and you can be shirtless.
That is a good idea. Maybe when we can go like live remote instead of just being stuck at the desk, that's something that we could get into.
I love that idea.
I'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, thank you.
We'll join Greg Allen to discuss all things college football momentarily. Stay tuned. And we are back. Segment 2, Week 4, Project Pate. Greg Allen now joins us to talk a little college football. Greg Allen, quickly, we get into Week 6. It's in the books. What did you take away?
I'll take away, we got a lot of calls last week from the Auburn fans about why haven't we been talking about them. So let's talk a little bit about Auburn. Going to Arkansas and Fayetteville this weekend and just getting absolutely just owned by the Razorbacks. The defense for Auburn is just atrocious right now. The receivers can't catch balls, throwing balls right through receivers' hands, picked off. You see the message boards blowing up. Barrett Trotter. Let me just say this. Barrett Trotter is a poor man Steven Garcia with a little lesser talent and a whole lot lesser drinking stories.
Is Barrett Trotter the answer at Auburn right now?
Barrett Trotter is not the answer. I think Kyle Frazier's the answer at Auburn, and I think you need to go ahead and take your lumps and just let him play this year out.
How about, aside from that, I think a bigger issue is maybe the stability of your program at Auburn right now. You look on the sidelines and you see players yelling at coaches. You see players openly calling out coaches in the media. That doesn't happen at successful programs.
If somebody did that to Nick Saban, where do you think they'd be?
You would never hear from them again.
Exactly. Les Miles probably the same exact way. Some of the high schools around here probably the same exact way. Your butt's benched or along those lines.
Meanwhile, scandal has broken out in the Big Ten. I don't know if you saw the end of the Ohio State-Nebraska game this weekend. The N on the Nebraska helmet no longer stands for Nebraska. It stands for naughty. Dano, roll the footage.
Going in for the nice handshake, and whoa, what in the world?
Jaw was on the ground. Dano, if you could rewind that and let's watch that one more time. Bam! Money shot.
You got to wonder what is going on through Luke Fickell's mind right now. Do I really want to be a head coach in the Big Ten anymore?
Well, I'm wondering what the cop was thinking when he was staring first. But second, you've got to think that Luke Fickell just goes in his office after that game alone and stares out the window for an hour or two and just reflects on where he is at right now, where that program's at.
Do you think Bo Pelini was trying to go in for a kiss on the lips and Fickell just kind of shunned him?
I'm really confused as to what to think, period, about that situation.
It's Pelini's wife and kids thing.
Hello. Top 5. Has it changed any from last week?
Alabama 1, LSU 2, Oklahoma 3, Wisconsin 4, and I got a tie for 5th with Clemson and Stanford. Just want to see a little more out of those teams as they get more in their conference schedules.
All right, give me Alabama, LSU, Ohio, Wisconsin, and Georgia Tech. My top 5 remains unchanged. You still doubt Georgia Tech? Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I big matchup with them and Clemson at the end of the year. So we'll have to wait till then.
Okay, let's hand out some mid-season awards. Your most surprising team thus far in the season.
My most surprising team would have to be LSU. I like the way LSU's played. The defense is fast, and I think that that November 5th matchup with Alabama is going to be huge. But the way they took care of Oregon at the beginning of the year,
and with so much distraction leading up to that game,
George Jefferson not being there, they played well. Jarrett Lee has performed well, going to West Virginia, Morgantown, going on the road in the SEC against Mississippi State. I like LSU right now, but I think that November 5th matchup is going to beat them.
What about Clemson?
I'm still kind of on the fence about Clemson just because of...
You still don't believe in this team.
I can't be 100% sold out on them yet because of Dabo, just because of the past and what they've done. I think them and Florida State have kind of reversed roles in the ACC a little bit this year. But I can't. I'm going to hold their stock. Even though they're 6-0, they beat the defending national champ Auburn, I still have to hold their stock just until I see them get past North Carolina. I do have them ranked number 5th in my top 5, but I'm not putting Boise in there.
At least they don't have a skeptical offense anymore. I mean, you got to give them that.
Well, Taj Boyd to Sammy Watkins. I mean, I've said it over and over again, and you lead the.
And they've gone into a couple of ruckus environments now, and they've won. So hats off to Clemson, my most surprising team of the year.
Why do I get made fun of so much on this show?
Because you got a monkey on your microphone right now. Most disappointing team thus far this season.
I would have to say Florida State. They recruit a top 3 class, probably the best in the nation, and they come out and just shoot an egg this year. They play Oklahoma, which is a tough team. They were in that game for a little while, and Oklahoma pulled away, and then they go to Clemson, and they get beat on the road by a pretty good team. But then this past weekend against Wake Forest, how do you not get your team up? That's coaching right there.
Well, maybe you don't have a lot of coaches on that staff. Maybe when you're going through the hiring process as an athletic director, and you look at the conference you're in, the ACC, which has historically not been that strong. Maybe you look at things and say, let's put together a staff full of recruiters to put together enough talent to where it can overcome our lack of coaching ability, and we can make it through this conference on talent alone. That's not the way it works, but it sounds good. It looks good on paper. The problem is when you don't know how to prepare a team and coach a team, then it's not easy to win even at Wake Forest.
But Jimbo Fisher's been around a long time. He's been at LSU. He's been at Florida State. He's been at the big-time programs. You would think he would know how to prepare a team. Wasn't he at LSU under Nick Saban?
I get the impression that maybe Nick Saban taught that guy everything he knows but didn't teach him everything that Nick Saban knows.
That's a valid point.
Most disappointing team, you could throw FSU around. I think you could definitely make a case for Mississippi State here as well, though. You look at the preseason rankings, consensus across the board, highest preseason ranking for the Bulldogs in program history, at least in recent history. And I think there's a clear line of demarcation in their season. They lose a tough game at Auburn, goal line stop, end of the game, clock hits 0, and then from there it's been a downward spiral for Dan Mullen and Mississippi State.
Coming into this year, you would think Mississippi State was going to have a great year offensively with Chris Ralph back, Vic Ballard in the backfield. That Auburn game, they torched the Auburn defense, and they just came up a half a yard short against Auburn. And as you said, that game has just sent them on a downward spiral, getting beat by Georgia. Up 3-0 on UAB this past weekend, or they were down 3-0 at halftime, and then having to put Tyler Russell in at quarterback to get a little spark on the offense.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And the defense, when Manny Diaz left last year and went to Texas, you knew there was going to be a little transition, but the offense has just spit and sputtered along and just has not been a well-oiled machine as it was last year.
BCS title prediction as of now.
I'm going to have to go with Alabama versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma's got a big game against Oklahoma State, and Alabama's got a big game against LSU. I kind of like Wisconsin in there also, easing through the Big Ten. They don't have to play Michigan until the Big Ten title game if they both were to get there. But right now, as of Week 6, going into Week 7, Alabama, Oklahoma.
We've heard ESPN's Brad Edwards over and over again state that the computers love the Big 12 as a conference this year. So inevitably, it looks like we're going to have multiple undefeated teams at the end of this season. And if that's the case, you've got to look at the SEC champion, which I think will be Alabama, and then the Big 12 champion, especially if it's an undefeated Oklahoma, regardless of what Boise State or maybe a Clemson or Georgia Tech, who I still like, or a Wisconsin does. And, bigger ramifications here may be the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are the two conferences standing in the way of a playoff in college football. If you get Stanford and Wisconsin both left out of a BCS title game in the same season, it may push those conferences a little bit to maybe consider that.
And Oklahoma is just in the driver's seat right now because they really only have one big game left with Oklahoma State because everybody else on their schedule I see them beating, and then they don't have to play a conference title game either. So it's just kind of like they're already in the top three. All they have to do is win out, and then Alabama and LSU would eventually take each other out, one or the other, and then play an SEC title game. And the same goes for Nebraska, or Wisconsin. I'm sorry, Wisconsin, if they were to stay undefeated until their title game.
Should be a great second half of the season. Just for the record, Bama, Oklahoma for me in the national title game too. Once again, you brought it this week. Will we see you back here next week? Laura Ann is ditching us next week. Will we see you back here?
I'll be here with bells on.
All righty. We'll be back with a mysterious new segment in just a second. Stay tuned. And we're back. And ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake, it is a monumental day here at Project Pate. In fact, I'm a little nervous. My hands are a little sweaty. Dano, big moment coming up. Are you ready?
It's a huge moment. I think I have butterflies.
I do too. I know what you mean. In 1947, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball. And I'm walking down the street the other day. And a little kid who hails from downtown walks up and he tugs on my shirt and he says, "Mr. Project, Mr. Project." And I said, "What did you say, little boy?" And he said, "Mr. Project." And I said, No, little boy, my name's Josh. The name of the show is Project Pate." And he said, "Oh, well, Mr. Josh, Mr. Josh." And I said, "Yes, little boy." And he said, "How come there's nobody on your show that looks like me?" And I said, "What do you mean, little boy?" And he said, "You got a show full of white people." And I walked in the studio today and I said, "Dano, we got a show full of white people." So today, Tier Woodson becomes our Jackie Robinson. We are boldly breaking the color barrier here on Project Pate. Please welcome Tier Woodson. How you doing?
Hi, baby. I'm fine. How are you?
Now, you're going to join us every week. Briefly tell us, what are you going to bring to the show?
Well, I'm going to be your pop culture correspondent, and basically that just means, stuff that's kind of going in the world / celebrity, E-type stuff.
That I know nothing about.
So, yeah, because you tend to be the more sportsy, but I got some sports a little bit, we might see, but I got you.
All right, let's get right into it this week. We're going to talk about Amanda Knox. Now, a brief backstory for the viewers who, like me, may not know much about this story. Convicted of murder, Meredith Kircher, back in 2007. That conviction was appealed last week and overturned. Take it from there.
Yeah, she came home. She lives in Seattle with her parents, and, she was welcomed with all these many different cameras. Everybody got to get in the business. So, when she was convicted, of course, you had some people like, the family, they're like kind of sigh of relief because like, oh, okay, they feel like their daughter's death was justified. And now that the courts appealed it, it's kind of like, so what's going on? And, just like anything with any murder, because honestly in America, to me, that's like one of the worst things you can do is take somebody's life. To me, you should not have that power.
This means that you think she did it, correct?
It kind of goes both ways. It's kind of like to say someone did but didn't because, yeah, you have the evidence partially because, like, saying you place in there but then no, because it can be like, oh, yeah, she might have done it because of envious because she's saying that she was very close to the roommate. The mom is saying she really wasn't like they knew each other because they've only knew each other less than a month. She said that she moved in roughly about October and Meredith was killed in early November. So it was kind of like they didn't know each other but didn't. And the person who actually was convicted, his name is Rudy. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Never trust a guy named Rudy, first
but
off.
His
Always
name
been
is
a rule
Rudy,
of mine.
and he has been convicted for the murder. But Amanda and her boyfriend, they were appealed and released.
Do you know anybody named Rudy that you trust?
I don't know Rudy.
I don't know any Rudys either, and there's a reason for it. Good movie, but I don't know any Rudy that I trust.
Yeah, Rudy
you know what
was
test she failed? You can talk about forensics all you want to. I watched a little bit of this last night in preparation for the show. She fails the body language test because her body language says guilty with a capital G.
I would have to agree in the sense that when she came home, of course they had a press conference and she was there saying thank you. But it's like me, if I was in jail, not even prison and jail are two different things. And especially overseas, like you think our judicial system sucks. Can you imagine being in different countries?
Don't nobody want to go to jail in Mexico.
Different stuff. So it's kind of like, I was just even imagining, like, even if I came home, I would be boo-hoo, crying, like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to sleep in my bed, my parents, my family, like, everybody I know. And she's just like not one tear came. It was kind of like when babies do, when they're just like, but no tear falls down. That's how she was doing. It was just like, but nothing was coming down her face.
Manufactured emotion.
So it was just like, you kind of saying, like, okay, was she for real? Was it, like, in her heart? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it just didn't seem genuine.
It's like when I laugh at Greg Allen's jokes. It's manufactured emotion because the guy is not in any way, shape, or form funny.
I mean, it's hilarious.
No,
what is wrong with you?
Don't encourage him. The Michael Jackson case. What's going on there? You like MJ, don't you? Big MJ.
I love me some Michael. Like, who doesn't like, I mean, Michael's been around, like, it's 30 plus years with the music from all the way back from when he was 5 with the Jackson 5 to now. You know, his legacy still continues through his children, and it's like, who isn't a Michaels fan? So this is a big deal. The trial's been going on for about 2 weeks now. Has roughly about 2.5. They took yesterday off for Columbus Day, but today they're back in court.
All right, I'm going to say a name right quick. I want to get your first impressions when I say this name. Conrad Murray.
Slap him.
Bam. You don't like him.
Heck to the no.
What did he
do? Okay, he was hired by Michael to be his personal physician throughout the course of the tour, which, you know, Michael's last tour. This is it. You know, big thing. And Michael wanted a personal person with him to keep him in shape, keep him healthy, everything like that. And one of Michael's problems was he wasn't sleeping. Like, he couldn't physically himself go to sleep. So he would ask the doctor what he called his milk, would give him propofol. And propofol is a sedative that they use, that anesthesia used to put you under sleep for surgery. Like, this stuff is not meant to be given outside a hospital because what could happen. And if you give it outside hospital, you need to be on the watchful eye. And when he gave Michael the substance, and when Michael fell asleep that fatal day, he went to the restroom for what he claimed to be 2 minutes on the phone calling his girlfriend. And that's when Michael went to cardiac arrest. And when he came out, Michael wasn't breathing. He tried to resuscitate him. Need I remind you, did not call 911. Need I remind you, because he claims it would neglect time away from Michael, but yet the first person he calls is Michael's assistant. It said while he was giving Michael CPR, he was dialing his assistant to tell him to get to the house, but yet you don't call 911.
On the phone with a girlfriend.
On the phone with a girlfriend. And it's kind of funny because when the story first broke all the way back in 2009, she kind of went to news stations, felt like she kind of blamed herself for a second, saying that she felt it was her fault that Michael passed, because she was like, oh, if I never would have called him, he would have been, right by Michael's side, right there for it to happen. But he had no thing, because cardiac arrest means your heart just stops.
Bam.
And you need that electrical thingy to shock it back. And he didn't have that.
Is that a medical term?
I don't know the
defibrillator?
Yeah, them thingies.
Bam.
Yeah.
Okay.
He needed that, and he didn't have it. And so he was giving Michael CPR on the bed. And everybody knows you need to give CPR on a flat surface so it actually elevates. And they actually did a demonstration, like the people who was doing behind the scenes or whatever. They were showing like a virtual thing of how what was going on. And there was no oxygen getting back to him because Michael's body was kind of curved versus flat out, because you're supposed to give CPR on a hardwood floor. But he's claiming, Michael was too big, like he needed someone else to help move Michael on the floor to do it, but he had to do it on the bed. And I'm just like, so why didn't you call somebody? Michael got security like it's none other. Why don't you call one of his bodyguards in and help you move the body? Why don't you tell them to call 911? This man waited 87 minutes. Michael was breathless for almost an hour and a half, and you didn't call nobody. Like, he didn't call. He was calling everybody else but 911. Not to mention, he never once told them that he had propofol in the system. Didn't tell the EMTs, didn't tell the doctors, didn't tell anybody.
So you care about this a little bit?
Oh, more than a little bit. Because because what people forget is, and I've always been an advocate for Michael, I'm very defensive about him. And the thing people forget is that he's a human first. He is just like me and you. He breathes, he walks, talks, feeds, everything. And people forget that people just saw Michael as the performer. That's all they saw. They saw like, oh my gosh, it's Michael. Because he just had this presence in this orb. They forgot that he's a father, that he's a brother, that he's somebody's son. And everybody knew, people always called Michael the golden child, and everybody knew him and his mama had the tightest relationship. And I definitely believe that no mother should have to bury their child. No mother should have to do that. And so it's like you took him not only away from his parents, but from his children. Blanket was 7 when this happened. So that means he had a good 3 to 4 years worth of memory of Michael, because most kids don't start remembering until about 3 or 4. And it's just like, look at what you took away, because Michael is a human first. Like, screw his fame and what screw that. He's a person.
Why you gotta make things emotional?
Because actually Dr. Carr, he actually took recordings of Michael. And his words are very slurish. And when you listen to it, there's like, if you told me you didn't feel nothing, I'd slap you silly. Because just to hear him, he was talking about how he hurt. Like, that's why he wrote songs like Heal the World and We Are the Children, because he hurt. Because he hurts to see kids, because he understands their pain, because they're so innocent. And that's why he was doing this tour, amongst other things, because he wanted to do something that someone has never done before. And it's like, to know that, to know that he was going through that. And it's like, when, he passed away, it was kind of like, it was like, finally he's at peace, because it was like, cause I knew he was in pain. I could tell. And so it was like, when he passed, it hurt, but it was just like, you knew he's with God, so you knew he's being taken care of. You knew that Michael, for the first time in his life, he was at peace.
What about Kim Kardashian's wedding?
Kim K. Her wedding special actually aired on E! Sunday night at 8 and yesterday night. And it was a very beautiful ceremony. Kim was a little of the bridezilla, she wanted everything to be perfect and everything like that. It was definitely a beautiful ceremony.
You told me she made $17 million off the wedding.
Mm-hmm. That was reportedly, yeah.
How? Please explain to me how that happens. When weddings cost most people money, how do you make money? And blow my paper all around?
Probably, endorsements and, getting all this stuff signed. And, when people, because think about it, because honestly, ever since they first started, everybody knew Kim's big story was she wanted to find love, get married.
Time out. I didn't know that. I didn't know it because I don't know anything
well,
about
for
it.
all the viewers who've never watched Kim K, she and her sisters and her family, they started the show Keeping Up with Kardashians all the way back in 2007. And it kind of started off with Kim being single, and also right after the sex scandal with Ray J, that sex tape that came out.
Oh, yeah.
So that was kind of like the start of it, and Kim kind of coming back and kind of showing their family values and showing, everything that they go through. And so since then, everybody knows it's been like, Kim always wanted to get married and have a family and stuff like that. So with her, with Reggie, her and Reggie Bush being together for 2 years.
Yeah, what happened to Reggie? What happened to that?
They broke up.
Well, why? I'm assuming you know. Why?
I mean, the first time they broke up, a lot of times, I think it was just like, of course they're not going to tell you all the details of what happened.
I'm about to tell you right now.
But it just like, some people believe Reggie, well, one thing I know, because Reggie didn't want to get married.
No, that's not
At the time. Reggie didn't want to get married, and Kim did. And so I know that's one of the big reasons.
No, the biggest reason is because he could not run between the tackles in New Orleans, and they had to ship him off to Miami. That's the reason that she didn't want to marry him.
No, because when they won the Super Bowl in what, 2009?
Reggie Bush was about 7th or 8th on the list of reasons they won the Super Bowl.
Kim and Chloe were right there cheering Reggie on.
Well, I bet they were.
All this other stuff.
I bet the third-string long snapper's wife was there cheering him on, too. That doesn't mean he's the reason they won the Super Bowl.
But, I mean, they broke up back in 2009. I was actually rooting for them. I thought they made a fabulous couple. I thought they were really cute together. I think they complemented each other very well.
You root for couples.
Yes.
So
just like, honestly, just like when J-Lo, Mark Anthony, that was a complete surprise when they broke up.
Oh, yeah. Who could have ever seen that?
Seriously, but honestly, 7 years in Hollywood is like 10,000 years to us. But seriously, I was really rooting for them because I liked them together as a couple.
I witnessed a grown man cry one time when Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson broke up.
Really?
Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen, though. I knew it. I was predicting it.
And I looked at that guy like he was an idiot, because he was. And he looks at me, how does this not affect you? Here is my whole take on this and why I know nothing about the majority of what you're talking about. My whole theory on life is you can either spend your time or you can invest your time. And any time that I spend worrying about this or video games or things of that ilk is time spent instead of time invested. I get nothing out of this.
But it's balance, babe. It's balance. It's like, because I do it. It's like I do this amongst other things in school and being involved. It's a balance. And it does preference like how you are. I've been always an advocate for celebs because it's like they are people, and people forget that. So like stuff like when Lizzie and Brittany and Michael and everybody as a celeb, when they're going through things, it's like, oh, that they can't do that because they're supposed to be idols, because they're supposed to be, you know, children looking up to them. And one of the biggest people I can use recently is just like even with Miley. Like people love talking about how, oh, she's in booty shorts. Who, you go on campus every day and see people in booty shorts, but because, oh, it's Miley Cyrus, she can't do it.
Let me tell you what I tell my kids when I have them and what I live by. When you look at athletes and when you look at entertainers, singers, movie stars, whatever, count on them to do one thing, and that is to entertain you. Don't look at them for their political views. Don't look at them to lead you and give you, adopt their views on life. If you just count on them to entertain you, then they'll never let you down and you'll never be disappointed. Otherwise, if you count on them to be your moral compass in life, you're setting yourself up for heartbreak.
I mean, I think that's true, but it's also like a personal thing. Because with me, I'm very connected to Michael and Brittany because of how they inspired me in my life and how they helped me through a lot of stuff.
What got you connected? What got you connected to Michael Jackson, though?
Him.
His music is
no,
what got
it wasn't
you connected.
his music.
You would have never known about Michael Jackson had it not been for his talents.
Yeah, it was his talents
that
got him where he needed to be to be involved in my life. But I didn't stay and be like, I'm a Michael fan because of his music. I'm a Michael fan because of his heart and what he stood for. Because Michael showed me the power of love. It's like God showed me the power of love. Michael showed me how powerful my love can be and how I can influence because everything, if you ever watch This Is It, everything Michael does is, did you notice he said it's all with love. Everything's for love. LOVE.
Yeah,
because he knows in this society full of hate and anger and just so like everybody's ready to fight, everybody's ready to give up, and it's like he's like, you need to bring love and positivity and harmony back into the world. That's why like me, that's why I'm such a positive person, because you go around every day and you're seeing people mad and angry, and I'm just like, dude, you're alive. Like, you could be dead today. Why are you complaining? You know, and it's like that is what he taught me, amongst other things. But it's like, yeah, his music got him there, but when it comes from me and my celebs, it's like I don't stay for their talent. It's because of what I see in them and what is in their heart that illuminates themselves to me.
Bam. I like it. Now, pause that, and we'll pick it up next week. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We'll see you next week. That's all from Studio 218. That's been Project Pate.
What you want? What you want?
No.
The poor bear was laid out on the floor of a freezer.
One time I saw a 95-year-old guy naked in the Gold's Gym locker room. That doesn't mean I did a story on it. You don't do a story on everything you see.
I want to throw up. Maybe Josh wants Stan and takes. Actually, Dan. I have to use it.
But this is not a language show. This is a sports show.
It's not a sports show.
It's a sports segment. Yeah, well, bump your everything. Sports is the only thing that matters in life. It's like I try to tell my wife. Sports is reality. This Real Housewives stuff, all these people, Jersey Shore, it's all fake and scripted.